Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox. I'm a compliance evangelist, and I'd like to welcome you to a special 5-part podcast series sponsored jointly by Skillsoft and StoneTurn entitled A Partnership of Products and Services for Your Compliance Program. In this podcast series, we consider the code of conduct to risk assessments to continuous improvement in a best practices compliance program with representatives of Skillsoft and StoneTurn. I know you'll enjoy it. And now a word about our two sponsors. Skillsoft. Skillsoft's compliance solutions provide legal, ethics, and workplace safety training through a full suite of customizable compliance training options. Skillsoft partners with industry-leading subject matter experts to develop accurate and engaging courseware and videos available in over 30 languages. To learn more about how Skillsoft can help your organization meet regulatory requirements and mitigate risk, visit skillsoft.com/compliance. StoneTurn. Who do you turn to when you need assistance navigating the emerging risks from the pandemic? For enhancing your compliance program, who do you turn to? For on-demand compliance resources and expertise, turn to us, StoneTurn. Since 2004, council corporations and government agencies have turned to global advisory firm StoneTurn when facing their greatest challenges. Make StoneTurn the first place you turn for advice on regulatory, risk and compliance issues, investigations, and business disputes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final episode in our 5-part podcast series. Today, I have Stephen Martin. Stephen's a partner at StoneTurn. Stephen, first of all, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me.
Oh, great to be on again, Tom. Always a pleasure.
Stephen, as you know, we have previously discussed risk assessments and how risk assessments can both inform and enhance codes of conduct in prior podcast episodes. But today I wanted to focus on how risk assessments really lead to and inform continuous monitoring and continuous improvement. How do you see that occurring?
Well, with risk assessments, they're the most critical part of your compliance program. They really frame what you're supposed to do overall, looking at, government expectations, industry-related risk, and then company-related risk, and then you build and enhance your compliance program around that. What has changed recently, with the new guidance from the DOJ that was just released this summer is an emphasis around continuous program improvement that's guided by your risk assessment, which is something new. And what that means is that while the DOJ has previously talked about compliance programs being dynamic and responsive to, the risk that you face and doing a periodic review, the new 2020 guidance really now directed companies to look at not just a limited snapshot in time, but using risk assessment that's based on continuous operational data and information across a number of functions so that you can have real-time risk assessment and improvement of your compliance program.
Stephen, you have talked about this perhaps longer than anyone I know, which is that your compliance program should be a living, breathing document. And it seems to me that not only regulators, but even perhaps the market has caught up to that approach. Do you believe that's still a valid approach? And perhaps could it even be more important today?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's way more important today, given the guidance that came out. Before you would be able to talk about a risk assessment that would be done, once a year or once every couple of years, or perhaps you would do a program assessment. Now, what you're expected to do is continually be evaluating your program and looking at, data and information, which often compliance officers and companies are not very in depth in terms of what they gather and how they do that and coordinate it, but really looking at that ongoing review to update your policies, procedures, and controls. And what companies should be doing under the new guidance is, tracking and incorporating into their risk assessments the lessons that they've learned from either issues that have come up or other companies in the same industry or, government actions or geographical risk or impacts that have been happening. And so the DOJ is going to be looking at whether a company has based its compliance program on this continuous monitoring idea, which is, a new approach. We've talked about before, kind of the 6 elements of corporate compliance, of an effective corporate compliance program. And 2 of those, one is risk assessment, which is your base part of the program, but the other is really oversight and monitoring and response, which is something that companies have not been very good at being able to address and handle. But now, DOJ with the new guidance is really putting forward this new emphasis on continuous monitoring and using data-driven decision-making and testing in your program on an ongoing basis. And, those statements that are coming out of DOJ really now emphasize the importance of just proactive and continuous risk assessment and ongoing monitoring so that you can have an effective program that is designed to detect and correct violations and be more predictive in issues that come up so that you can really help your companies reduce risk, maximize profitability, maximize performance, and still meet government expectations.
Stephen, many compliance practitioners focused on the new part of the 2020 update to evaluation of corporate compliance programs around data. And I think they focused on data analytics as a key component going forward. But the Department of Justice also made clear it's not simply numbers, it's not simply data analytics, it's information. Do risk assessments, do looking at the number of hotline calls, where hotline calls come from, do those provide information that you can use to not only continuously monitor, but actually continually improve your compliance program as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as you well know, a lot of compliance programs and corporations have disaggregated information and data, meaning that, the training records are separate from, the hotline calls that come in and separate from the audit function and what's being done. And so collectively, most corporations don't use data in any kind of an effective way and in being able to bring it together to really look at what trends or issues that are coming out. As the previous guidance had really talked about having, well-resourced and independent compliance functions. Now what they're talking about is not just the compliance program being implemented, but is it effective and is it empowered to function on a daily basis using the data they have to really meet the needs of the corporation? They're starting to ask now in the guidance about questions like, is there sufficient access to sources of data to allow for timely and effective monitoring or testing of policies or controls and transactions? And the answer to that in a lot of corporations that you and I both see is no. And, what are the impediments that, limit the resource and use of data? And so you're starting to see a new focus about, what kind of tools you would use. How do you review data on things like, anonymous reporting, the existence of measures of controls that employees are aware of the hotline. You're talking about the possibility of culture surveys. What are your controls look like? Financial, operational, and legal related controls. What are controls around third parties? And how are you using all of that data, not just to report, not just to report to the board of directors, but to use it to enhance the program going forward. I think what you're going to see is the continuation of using some of the technologies that are out there around compliance management tools, as well as dashboards and other AI and analytic tools that are going to be built to really help compliance officers both meet the government expectations, but more important, continue to be proactive and predictive in the compliance program, assisting the business in really operating within the bounds of law, protecting the reputation of the business, and making sure that they're meeting what you need to, whether it's from the code of conduct or any other expectations that you have for your employees.
Stephen, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode, but I was wondering if listeners wanted more information on StoneTurn or any of the services they provide around continuous monitoring and continuous improvement. Where could they go?
Sure. They can contact me at smartin@stoneturn.com, and I'd be happy to, talk to them about, what kind of tools we have. StoneTurn is a boutique consulting firm that focuses on compliance and then investigations and monitoring, which are the two things your corporations don't want to do because you don't want to have a monitor. So when we talk about monitoring in this aspect, we're really talking about the proactive. And we have, a series of folks in our company that work on risk and controls and audit functions as well to really help companies utilize data. We also have a data analytics team to help companies as well bring data together and really utilize it, whether it's in a dashboard or other mechanisms to have an effective compliance program.
Stephen, thanks so much, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Oh, it's great as always. I always enjoy it, Tom. You do a great job with these podcasts, so it's fun to be on and chat with you.
This is Tom Fox again. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of our special 5-part podcast series on the products and services for your compliance program, sponsored jointly by Skillsoft and StoneTurn. I have linked to the StoneTurn and Skillsoft website in the show notes, so check out those websites for more information. Additionally, if you enjoyed today's podcast, I want to let you know about an upcoming webinar both Skillsoft and StoneTurn are hosting. The webinar entitled Evolving Your Compliance Program will be held on Wednesday, September 23. And we'll explore how companies are leveraging data and information to improve and evolve their compliance programs. Check out the show notes in this episode to sign up, register, and obtain more information. I hope you'll join us again for another episode of this special 5-part series, which is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to visiting with you again.